Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tackling Sport podcast. It's Daniel here, joined firstly by my brother Seán.
How's it going?
And for Premier League predictions this week, we're joined by the champion from last week, Seán Gibney, but also the challenger, Manchester United fan, Douglas Bell. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, lads. Happy to be here. Lads. Thanks for having me on.
So, Seán, you came up with the goods, albeit a low-scoring 3-2 affair last week. Shane was a bit disappointed now overall, I think.
Yeah, speaking from Shane, he hasn't been talking much the last few days. He's still disappointed over his loss. I think Shane thought he was going to be here till the end of the season. But to be honest, I kind of just went easy on him. I didn't want to give him the biggest beating in the world, so I just thought I'd beat him by one or two.
Very thoughtful of you, Seán. So for those that don't know how it works, it's 1 point for a correct result and 3 points for a correct score. And you can take it from the 3-2 last week. There was no correct score. So we're hoping for a better standard this week, lads. We're going to start with the Friday 8 o'clock game, which is Wolves versus Palace. And we're going to go to the champion here, Seán Gibney. Seán, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd see it as not a high-scoring game. Both teams are kind of struggling at the moment. Wolves nearly had the win last week until last minute goal for Newcastle, and then Crystal Palace. You thought they were down and out. They weren't going to get a win for a while, but they managed to scrap a 2-1 win. So I think it's a hard game to call. I think Wolves are probably just slightly too much for Palace, and I think it's going to be 1-0 to Wolves.
1-0 Wolves. Interesting, Doug Bell.
I've gone for 1-0 Wolves as well. Yeah, I think Wolves are looking pretty solid again this season. They're still trying to find the right kind of attacking combination up front, but they look pretty solid defensively. I think Palace they're being overhyped a bit. I don't think they're as good as people make them out to be. I think they'll finish about 13th and 14th. They seem to be playing with a few more kind of attack-minded players in the team. You know, the likes of Easy, Batshuayi, Zaha, Townsend, but I still don't think they're that much of an attacking threat, and I think they'll struggle this season, to be honest with you.
Oh, so 1-0, and I'm liking that already, Doug. You're stuck to your guns. You didn't change your predictions because someone else had it, so already earned the respect of the listeners there. Seán, how do you see this one going, and the lads' predictions there?
I don't think they'll be too far off. Wolves, you know what you're going to get from Wolves. They're extremely solid defensively. They, like the lad said, they haven't really got their attacking patterns together yet, and they like playing Pedance and Neto, but then you've had Adama Traore on the bench. Two sides that are really good on the counter attack, and maybe that will just nullify itself. But look, I don't know if it's going to be the most high scoring game in the world, and I was very disappointed with Wolves against Newcastle. I think they're one of the teams that just can't go through the gears. They can't sort of set up defensively and then move in and play with attacking quality as well. So it's going to be a tactical game, that's for sure, I think.
Yeah, Gib, quick word on Traore. I know he's on your fantasy team and you were very disappointed with his lack of game time the last couple of games.
Yeah, he's a 90 million pound player. The Wolves, they're struggling to score goals and they're struggling to win games, and they're just not playing my main man. I'm going to have to think about subbing him soon if they don't get their act together. So I don't know what's going on, to be honest. Every time he comes on, the game changes and they look like they're scoring more goals. So if it was me, I'd be starting him straight away every time. He'd be the first man on the team sheet.
Well, one of the big problems this year with Wolves is actually their fullbacks and their wingbacks. They've got Saiss on the left and Semedo on the right. And normally last year, a lot of their attacking prowess, if you like, would have come from them fullbacks, and at the moment it's just not happening. And when you do that, you reduce their attacking players, if you like, with quality, and I think that's an issue that Nuno will have to sort out.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, moving on to go on, Doug. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I was surprised in the summer they let Matt Doherty go for so cheap and didn't really bring they brought in your man Marcal, but didn't really bring in a like for like replacement, or maybe your man's been injured, but I'm just surprised they didn't go so quickly because he was pretty key to their attacking threat last season, and they seem like they're missing that kind of element now going forward.
Yeah, and it's even interesting with Matt Doherty and Spurs. It hasn't quite happened there so far, I guess. I know he was back in the team there last weekend.
Best move from.
But we'll see how that goes. Moving on to 12:30 game then, Sheffield United, Manchester City. Doug, going to you first. City on the 12:30 slot again after their 1-1 draw last week. How do you see this one going?
I think they'll still get the win. They have enough firepower in their squad to kind of be able to manage playing every 3 or 4 days. They've got the likes of Torres and Jesus to be able to go on up top. I'd say the kind of tighter schedule probably helps them the most out of everyone in the league, them and United. So I'd say they should win 2-3-0. I've gone for 3-0 here because I think Sheffield are looking really poor. I think teams have just found out how to play against them with the kind of five at the back and the two kind of centre backs who be bombing forward. I think they have about 4 or 5 strikers in their squad, but I can't see any of them getting more than 10 goals this season. It'd be interesting to see how your man Brewster gets going, but I still can't see them scoring that many goals. And if they're going to get caught out defensively, they could really struggle. And I could see them going down. But yeah, I'd say City will win.
Interesting. Yeah, Sean. So it's 3-0 for Doug. How do you see this one going? I think Kevin De Bruyne is back for the weekend, and a lot of fantasy managers, I've transferred him, half thinking of getting him back in. But how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I was actually thinking of doing the same. I have to do my fantasy team today, but I think it's going to be like 4-0. I'd say I was going to go 3-0 as well, but I don't want to do the exact same as Doug.
It's not great. It's not great TV or whatever.
Nobody's going to listen to that. I just don't see Sheffield United scoring again. Spoke about it on the last podcast, so we won't go into that again. But yeah, I think City are on form. Sheffield United they have 1 point since the new season started, so I can't see them getting points against City. And De Bruyne will probably get a few assists in here, so I think it's going to be City 4-0.
Sean, the lad's been a bit harsh on Sheffield United. I know you're a Chris Wilder fan, but I guess they've been slowly letting you down each weekend this year.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be naive to think Sheffield United after their start and that the run of games they have won't be in trouble. And I think, I'd say Chris Wilder will recognise that. I think the performance against Liverpool I thought was really, really good, and lucky that they got lucky with the penalty, no doubt. But I thought they were, sort of, if you like, bullying Liverpool offensively for a while with long balls, and they weren't just long balls for the sake of long balls. They kind of seemed like they had worked on that. So, I would say that they're in a bind and they're going to have to get themselves out of it. And, and maybe some of the transfers just haven't been, getting young players. And I know it's great and it looks great for the future. But if you look at what happened to Bournemouth with signing the likes of Solanke and Jordan Ibe and young players for big money, sometimes it just doesn't work. And you need your experienced players. I thought John Egan was absolutely brilliant against Liverpool, and they're going to need performances like that from him if they're gonna keep themselves up. But they're absolutely in a relegation bind.
Yeah, and I guess the Ryan Brewster signing kind of reminds me of some of the Bournemouth signings from Liverpool. I don't know if that will work out. And like you said, they need it to work out right now, and instead of 2 or 3 years when they could be out of the Premier League. But we're going to stick with you, Doug, and move on to Burnley against Chelsea. This is an interesting game now. It seems like we were watching Champions League football there in midweek, and Chelsea seem to have slowly got their attacking act together and maybe might stumble upon a team soon that fits everybody in. But it just seems like they have almost too many attacking players, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, but I think with the amount of attacking players they have, they'll struggle to not score a lot of goals this season. I think Pulisic coming back would be huge for them as well. I'm a huge fan of him. I think he got a hat-trick there last season, either home or away, and I could see him getting another couple this weekend if he plays. The only problem for Lampard is if he plays all these attackers, he doesn't really have the defensive nous to be able to kind of keep clean sheets. You saw against United last weekend, like they were so hell-bent on keeping a clean sheet that they just completely gave up on attacking. So I think that would be a tricky balance for him to find this season. I think this weekend they should be fine. They should win 3-0. Burnley looking absolutely terrible this season. They've got a pretty difficult set of fixtures until Christmas, and they could be with Sheffield United down to relegation scrap. They don't really have much going forward other than your man Chris Wood, and they seem to be leaking goals as well defensively. So I'd say Chelsea 3-0.
Yeah, brilliant. Doug seems to be relegating every second team we've spoken about so far here, Sean. And he's also had a pop of Chris Wood off the back of your pop at him last week. Do you want
I didn't have a pop at him. He's the only one I like. He's the only one I like.
Yeah, respect for having a pop of Chris Wood, Doug. I agree with you there. To be honest, like I can't go against Chelsea here. I to be honest, like Burnley did well to not concede that many against Tottenham. They only conceded one in the last couple of minutes, so I actually don't see it as high scoring as Doug does. I think Chelsea are going to win 1-0, but yeah, I think Frank just has so many options that he's just still learning to see what works best. So it'd be interesting to see who plays. If Pulisic starts, I think Chelsea would definitely win. I think he's like the new Hazard for Chelsea. I think he's so good. So yeah, I think it's going to be 1-0 Chelsea.
Yeah, and actually in the FA Cup final, I think that was the turning point. Pulisic coming off against Arsenal. Sean, how do you see this one go?
I kind of fancy Burnley. Chelsea have had a really busy week. Champions League last week, match against United Sunday, away trip to Russia, and now they're going to Burnley. I can't imagine that's when you look at the fixtures and you see what's after Champions League game, I don't think Frank would be eyeing up the prospect of going to Burnley now. There's probably bonuses at the fact I think it's a 3:00 kickoff, so you lose that sort of maybe extra fatigue of playing in the evening. But I kind of fancy Burnley here. I thought they were brilliant against Tottenham and probably should have got something out of the game. They didn't have too many clear-cut chances, but the way they hunted, the way they stopped Tottenham playing, I thought was brilliant. And, I do kind of fancy them to get something out of the game. I think it'd be an ambush on Chelsea, and it's not easy for Chelsea to go, what was it, Wednesday, Sunday, Tuesday, Saturday, and it's busy and it's tough on players. The one thing I would say, the keeper looks very assured, and he'll need to come out and claim corners and free kicks if Chelsea aren't to concede and win. And it's a big game for Frank now because Jose Mourinho's gone there and won. Big sides are going to go there and win, and it could be a potential slip up for them.
Any final thoughts on that, lads, in terms of giving Burnley any sort of a squeak?
Not for me.
Not for me.
I think Sean Dyche is going to be in trouble this season. I think they're going to struggle. They could be 17th, 16th, 17th. I think they didn't seem to add any players to the squad this summer, and I think they were one of the only teams who didn't really do much in the transfer market. And I think you needed a bigger squad this season. You're playing so many games. I think they'll struggle, to be honest.
Yeah,
Chelsea are going to probably play 5 at the back because they're going to come up against Byrne and Wood. So whatever way that makes their midfield and front 3, I think nullify their tread a little bit. And I sneakily feeling on Burnley. I thought they were really good against Tottenham, and the 2 strikers will cause Silva, Zoom, Azpilicueta huge amount of damage.
You definitely think they'll play back 5? Sorry, Doug, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. I think a back 5 would be probably the most beneficial formation for Reece James and Chilwell, given that they can play as attacking fullbacks. But I think playing that extra centre back just takes away from the fact that you can play an extra forward when they've got 4 or 5 options who should really be guaranteed starters up top. So it'd be interesting there. You could play around with the formation bit, maybe play Chilwell and Reece James as kind of auxiliary fullbacks so that they're playing more attacking minded, but still playing a back 4. So I'm not quite sure how they'll line up.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting now seeing those teams. I personally think they'll go with a back 4, but again, after the clinch against United, maybe they've improved that formation a bit. But we'll see how that goes. The 5:30 game is Liverpool versus West Ham. Sean, we'll go to you first. How do you think Liverpool are going to cope there? Another injury to Fabinho. They've definitely got the Manchester City look of injuries from last season, this season, probably even worse. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, like with Van Dijk gone and then Fabinho gone, I feel like there's going to be a bit of an upset here. West Ham, but they beat Leicester 3-0. Then they had 2 big draws against Tottenham and Chelsea, wasn't it? So, I think there could be an upset here, and I feel like West Ham are going to grab the win. I think Liverpool will be disappointed with the amount of injuries, and they'll probably be disappointed with the last couple of performances, really. Bar that Ajax performance away, I thought they were excellent there. Yeah, I think Antonio is just going to cause havoc for whoever the two centre backs are for Liverpool. So yeah, I think it's going to be 2-1 to West Ham.
Wow, love a controversial prediction here. Doug, how do you see this one going? It was actually Manchester City. They got the point against Gibbs, so it's been Leicester, Spurs, and City. Yeah, but that's 5 points out of those 3 games, and they've this run of fixtures probably one of the worst starts to the season I've ever seen. When I saw the fixtures, I think Wolves was their easiest game, outside the first game of the season. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, well, yeah. So obviously they beat Wolves 4-0. Like they've had a fantastic start to the season. I think Moisey boys finally found the perfect fit in West Ham. He's got Bowen, Fornals, Antonio attacking. They look like they're a serious threat. I think this could be a bit of a smash and grab. I've gone for, say, 3-2 West Ham. I think it's going to be goals.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on it. I think, yes, they'll cause Liverpool problems. Undoubtedly, that the back four or whatever way they shape up, whether they go with the young lad Williams or whether they maybe even go for a left field choice and maybe put Jordan Henderson or someone back there to fill in a gap, I wouldn't be too surprised. But I think Liverpool just at the moment that the machine sort of rolls on, and even if West Ham go ahead, you're sitting there expecting Liverpool to come back, and I think that's probably the difference at the moment with them and City, that Liverpool are just a little bit more sharper and they'll come back. But yeah, I think everyone will see West Ham will cause them problems, but I think that maybe suits Jurgen Klopp, and he can set up for that, and he can make sure his players are right on it. And I think at the moment that's just the difference between Liverpool and the rest of the teams. They can grind out those results better than anyone.
Doug, we talked about Liverpool City. Quick word, who do you see out of the two are favourites? And it's such an open league this season that you could potentially make a case for a few teams.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure that it's down to those two teams. I think the likes of Spurs, Chelsea, United, Arsenal can all kind of make a push. I don't know if they'll win it, but I definitely don't think it's just a 2-horse race this season. I think like City are going to struggle. They've shown the first few weeks that they're not flying for him. I think Guardiola this is definitely going to be his last season. I think, and that will probably be beneficial for both parties. I think it'll reinvigorate both of them. I think Liverpool will obviously struggle with the defensive injuries. I think Spurs can really push. I could see them making a push for like being in the top 3 come the end of the season. So I'm sitting on the fence with this one. I'll probably go for a Spurs Premier League win. Yeah,
they're definitely a popular choice in the betting markets at the moment. They're being shorting a lot. But listen, we'll move on to the Sunday's games in Villa, Southampton. Sean, we'll go to you first. How do you see this one going? 12 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, this just kind of depends on what teams come out. Like if the Southampton team against Everton came out, and then if the Villa at the start of the season came out, I think this would be a great game. This could be pretty high scoring. Southampton were really, really impressive against Everton. They shut all the main lads out. Calvin Lewin couldn't get a goal, and I just thought the movement of the Southampton lads was excellent. But then again, if Jack Grealish is on form, if the strikers for Aston Villa are on form, it's hard to see them not scoring as well. So I think it's going to be a draw. It's going to be a tight one. It's going to be 2-2.
Doug?
So I kind of, when I initially saw the game, I thought it was going to be a lot of goals. I thought it was going to be like 4-2, maybe 4-3 to Villa. But then I saw the time of the kickoff, and Sunday morning, for some reason, for the last 10, 15 years, whenever I've watched that game, it's always been a drab affair, like a 1-0. So I'm kind of unsure about how many goals is going to be. I'm going to stick to my initial prediction, given the crazy season it is, like 4-2 Villa. I think Grealish is just looking like a world-class player. Every time I see him, he's going to get a huge move this summer to Champions League club. They could have scored an unbelievable solo goal last weekend. They're also looking pretty good defensively in the last sort of 6 months. Villa are, but I think Southampton they're looking like a dynamic attacking threat as well. So I think there'll be goals, but I think Villa should make it, thanks to Grealish.
Yeah, and just on that Grealish, Sean, I think that chance came at either 0-0 or at the very least 1-0. So it was a massive moment in the game almost. And it actually ended up being an easy chance. I know he did so much to get there in the first place, but nearly should have scored. But it was a phenomenal run. How do you see this going? Do you think there'll be a lot of goals like the lad says, or do you think maybe Villa might shore up after their poor defensive performance against Leeds?
I think this is going to be a draw. I think that the two extremely good teams, both teams that are kind of, patchy if you like. They go on good runs. I think if Southampton beat or play the way they did against Everton, I think they'll beat Aston Villa. They'll stop the counter. They'll stop their threat, and that's what I was so impressed with Southampton. Everton were so poor, but Southampton didn't let them create anything. Didn't let them settle into the game, and Southampton at home, I'd kind of fancy.
Interesting. So moving on to Newcastle versus Everton, Doug, we'll go to you. How do you see this one going? Everton kind of had a bit of a bump of the road there last week against Southampton, and they were kind of telling us James wouldn't start, and then he did start, and it seemed like they almost overthought that and just maybe should have focused on trying to get in the win.
Yeah. I think James is back this weekend, though, isn't he? I think.
Yeah. Well, no, he played against Southampton, but but yeah, he should be back. Yeah. I think anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with him coming back, it would be huge for them if he gets like a week rest. I'd say I could see them winning 2 or 3-0. I'm going to go for 3-0. I think I know Sean's a big fan of Steve Bruce. I'm not. I think he's a good Premier League manager, but they're not gonna get top 10 or anything like that. I think they'll probably keep them in the league, no hassle. But I could see them struggling against the kind of better teams this season. They'll probably have a few good wins. They'll probably beat like City or Liverpool in a few games, but I can't see them winning this weekend. I think they're pretty poor defensively at the moment, and I could see them being a bit 3-0.
Gib, you come in before Sean defends Steve Bruce.
Sean, I'd just like to back up my statement on Callum Wilson as well. He didn't score. He didn't even look like scoring. He's a pro footballer, but he's not that great. To be honest, I see this game as a draw. I don't know. I feel like Everton could be found out a little bit, or I just see Calvert-Lewin might get a goal, but James could be found out with the toughness of the Newcastle side. I think Steve Bruce will tell these lads to take Everton off their perch and to give them a good strong game. So I think it's going to be 1-1 with Everton Newcastle.
Yeah, like you, Sean, I kind of have fancy Newcastle here, and not just because it's Newcastle, because where Everton has struggled in the past is where they've been on good runs and maybe it gets derailed, and they compound that by losing 2 or 3, or losing 1, drawing 1. And these are the games, if you want to get top 4, they're non-negotiables. You saw Manchester United go there and win well. So this, it is a tough game, but I mean, if Everton are to be considered a real force this year for the top 4 or even beyond in some people's eyes, then they have to win it. I think it's as simple as that. But at the moment, I think that Newcastle or Everton side are missing 2 key players, and we said it before, Coleman and Digne, and I think they lose a huge amount of their threat, not only going forward, but defensively as well. I know Ben Godfrey has shifted in a right back. Look, he's a really strong player. He's a centre back by trade. Can play midfield if needed. But I kind of fancy Newcastle to get something from this game. Absolutely. Steve Bruce is doing a wonderful job. A wonderful job.
We'll park the Steve Bruce segment because I feel like he takes up way too much time every week. Manchester United, Arsenal, Doug, the big game. Sir Marcus Rashford scored a hat-trick there on Wednesday. Coming off the bench, first Manchester United to do that, coming off the bench scoring a hat-trick since Ole Gunnar scored 4, I think it was in 99. Unbelievable what he's doing, both on the pitch and off the pitch.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that stat, but it doesn't surprise me. Ollie's Reds got firing again last night. I don't know if you saw it, but absolutely sensational for him. He beat the Champions League semi-finalists 5-0. Beat Champions League finalists last weekend. Arsenal should be absolutely no hassle. I think this could be 3-1 to United. Arsenal, they're not looking great offensively the last few weeks. I think Arteta is a good manager, but I still think that they'll be really challenging for top 4 at a push. They look good defensively, which is weird for Arsenal. I think your man Gabriel has been a good signing. But I just think that United's firepower, they seem to have stumbled across a decent formation as well last night with the diamond. So that's about three or four different formations that they can play, which kind of fits kind of Van de Beek, Fernandes, Pogba, and the front three in as well. So I'd be interested to see how they can kind of line up with that. They've got good attacking threat from the bench now as well, which they didn't have last season. So I think 3-1 United.
Yeah, Gib, say what you want about United, but I think that point on their bench, like no matter what game or how bad United are playing, and they've had a couple of bad performances, they do. Like if you're bringing on Paul Pogba or Van de Beek, or if you're not even bringing on Van de Beek because you have too many good players to bring on ahead of him, it shows that they definitely have the stronger bench than Arsenal. How do you see this going overall, though?
Yeah, no, their bench is class. Like they were able to bring McDominay on last night, and then he just controlled the game. Like I think he's so good. And then I feel like Donny Van de Beek yesterday played class. I think he'll start against Arsenal, and I think United are just going to keep scoring goals. I wouldn't be surprised if they got another 5 goals at the weekend. Like so. I'm going to go with 5-0 Man United. Rashford's going to get 2. Greenwood's going to get 1. Like Arsenal got rid of the best goalkeeper in the league. They just got rid of Martinez, and Leno is just so many mistakes in him. You could see in the Europa League game that he's not comfortable, and they should have never gotten rid of him. And then to have David Luiz up against the golden boy Rashford is a joke in my opinion. Yeah, like Rashford's going to get at least 2, and it's going to be 5-0 thrashing to Man United.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of people talking this game up. I think if Arsenal give United any space, they'll get battered. I think Manchester United thrive off that space and behind. They sort of thrive off getting an early goal and sort of sitting in, and the second half they just opened up. Leipzig, who really were a disgrace defensively, and I think if Arsenal sit in the deep block and Manchester United sit in the deep block, I think it's just going to cancel itself out. I think it could be a really trib-trab game, and it'd be interesting to see. I think midfield's a huge battle, and Arsenal need to win it, to be honest, if they're to control the game or even just to survive. I think because Manchester United could eat them up in there, and I think whatever way he goes, does he go a Partey or a Xhaka and a Ceballos? I think he'll go Partey and Xhaka. But he loves playing Ceballos, and then does he play Ceballos a little bit further forward? Do Arsenal play 5 at the back, 4 at the back? It's a big game for Mikel Arteta, and I think if they give United any sort of space, then I think United will crucify them. But other than that, I think if they can keep good defensive shape, and Arsenal need to be better on the break, and I think that's been a huge problem against City and Liverpool, where last year in the Project Restart they were hurting teams on the break. This year they just haven't been able to. And like I said, if they give United space, it's game over. But if Arsenal can get it going on the break, let's not forget this Manchester United back 4, or whatever way they want to phrase it, is appalling. Wan-Bissaka's decent. That's about it. Lindelof played well. Maguire's too slow on the half turn. Luke Shaw shouldn't be playing. Taylor should be playing, but I think he's got coronavirus. So this United team's gettable. Like I don't see why you wouldn't say that they've been gettable at the season, and I think they just thrive if they get an early goal and teams give them space.
Do you want to come back in there, Doug?
Yeah, I think if you saw the game last night, you would have seen Fred basically covered the entire pitch every time. He won the ball so well. So he sorted defensively. Lindelof was man of the match last night. You got Axel Tuanzebe to come on, who's probably the best young centre back in the world. So I think they'll easily mark out the Gabonese like Bon Lahore out of the match. He'll get nothing. So 3-1, 4-1.
Just final thing on that, I actually think Fred was involved in 4 of the first 4 goals anyway. Last night he was phenomenal. But how do you see that midfield battle going with Partey there? I can definitely see Partey kind of cancelling that out. And Arsenal are kind of suited to bigger matches. Obviously going back to last season, but especially at home to like even at Leicester. I know it's a big-ish match, but Arsenal are favourites. They don't seem to suit that tag at all. They're probably better coming up against a Manchester United away.
Yeah, no, I think Partey is a quality player. I think it was unbelievable business getting him for 45 million. I don't know why more clubs were interested. I think he was just set on going to Arsenal. I think he could definitely do a job on Fernandes or Pogba, whoever plays the kind of attacking midfield role, and just kind of mark them out of the game. But not only that, he's got great kind of technical ability to bring the ball forward himself, and he could be involved in a lot of the attacks. I think he's a quality sign. He's already one of your best players. But I still think United have too much midfield and attacking power to get past him.
I like Fred, don't get me wrong, but is Fred a top 4 midfielder in a club? Probably not. And I think if Matic plays, then United could be in big trouble, because the lack of legs from Matic is a huge problem at the moment, and I think he should start McTominay. But United at the moment, yeah, they've clicked in the last couple of weeks, but a couple of weeks ago they conceded, big lots of goals, and I think that's going to be the worry. And if Arsenal, like I said, if Arsenal give Leipzig that space, yeah, then it's game over. But if they can stop them, have United at the moment got the patterns of play to go past them? I'm not sure.
Yeah, final word though before you go on the Ole Gunnar side of things, because I always like getting a quote that can kind of come back to haunt you. Ole in, Ole out. It seems like those 2 Champions League wins have given you 6 more months Ole, whether you like it or not. But are you a fan of him?
Yeah, no, I think Ole in. Like, obviously, you in the last 6 or 7 years, we haven't had a manager or a team who's been able to go and win 5-0 against anyone. So I think you got to give him time. He's the only one that's proved that if he can get it to click, it can really click and it can work really well. They've tried every different type of kind of manager. They've tried the big egos, the big CVs in like Van Gaal, Mourinho, and they didn't really work. So I think give him a chance now, like for another couple of months, or like I'd say another year or two. I'd say he'll win a trophy this season, to be honest. I think they were very close last season. They got to 3 semi-finals, and I think this season it could get 1 or 2 over the line. But things are looking better from the last few weeks. I know what Seán was saying. They didn't look great defensively at the start of the season, but I think now that they've got a kind of a few different formations they can play, he seems to be adapting his kind of formation and style to depending on the team we're playing and the players he has available. So he seems to be kind of getting a bit more clever with his formations and his tactics when it comes to the different kind of teams he's playing against. He used to be a bit naive and just kind of play the same formation every game. So I think he seems to be getting better and just getting more experienced as the season goes on.
The one thing I think though for this match, if Arsenal let Manchester United have the ball and play out from the back, I think they can press them and get at them, and really, because when you look at that, there's too many players there that are prone to a little heavy touch. Fred's really prone to it. Maguire is, and if you got the pace of Aubameyang, Pepe, or like I said, whoever it is pressing them down, I think we might even see Eddie Nketiah for that reason. And I think that's when United could struggle. And if they're trying to break down a team for large parts, that's where they show they aren't there at the moment compared to some of the bigger teams.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you remember the match last season, Champions League or the FA Cup semi-final against Chelsea, that's exactly what they did. And since then, teams haven't really done it. Spurs obviously did. Other than that, I think if they want to get United, all they have to do is press the centre-backs, because centre-backs aren't great at playing football when they get pressed. Luke Shaw is the same. Fred, McTominay is the same. They can have a heavy touch and get a bit lost and kind of just playing a lot of backwards passes. So I think you're right. If Arsenal start pressing them from the back, they could do well, but teams don't seem to be doing that much. I think maybe the formation that Ole sets out kind of helps them against that. But yeah, I think you're right.
But the more you press, the more room you leave at the back, and I think it sort of has to be a risk and reward with it. But hopefully it's a good game. I'm kind of expecting both sides to even themselves out, to be honest.
Yeah, it'd be interesting at the start of the game, those first few minutes, if United centre-backs kind of go long to combat that sort of thing. But it'll be an interesting game. Gib, we'll move on to you for Spurs versus Brighton, which is the 7:15 Sunday game. How do you see this going? I know Doug's talked up their chances in the league. You've been pressed enough with them, just talking to you there over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a must-win game for Spurs if they do want to be in the top 4, even go for the title. Brighton haven't been bad to start the season. They're coming off the back of 2 draws when really they should be beating the likes of West Brom and stuff. But yeah, I think Tottenham are just too strong. Kane and Sonaldo are just Lincoln. I saw a stat there actually. Ronaldo scored more goals than Arsenal combined this season, which is hilarious. He has 9 and Arsenal have 8. So that says it all about Arsenal as well, doesn't it, against Man United? Yeah, I can see a 3-0 win to Tottenham here.
Doug?
So I was talking up Spurs a bit at the start, but I think Brighton are a solid team. I think they'll put up a good fight against Spurs. I think they definitely have goals in them. I think your man Trossard, a big fan of him. I think he's electric. I think it could be 2-1 to Spurs. I think I could see Bale getting his first goal back at home, and Kane is looking very sharp this season. He's looking like he's in the best form of his life. Same with Son. So yeah, I think I'd like to see Spurs kind of push on and do really well this season. More just so for Mourinho's sake, because I think he's a good entertainment, and I think he's been cast aside too quickly over the last few years. So I'd like to see him kind of get another big trophy in. But I think it'll be a tight game. I think Brighton are good. I'm liking Graham Potter.
Yeah, I'm nervous about Brighton because I'm a big fan of them as well. I seem to watch their game every week for whatever reason. It's always on at a good time, and they seem just to be so good at playing football. Yet they always seem to draw games they should win, and lose games they should draw. That kind of thing. Sean, how do you see this game going? Spurs Brighton.
Well, if Spurs keep Brighton in the game, we know what happened in the last couple of home games, and I think Tottenham and Jose need a win where it's 2-0 or 3-0 and it's just comfortable. I think that could happen. I'm a little bit, I'm not sure about Brighton. Look, I think they've got some really good players. At times they play really good football, but I don't think they're changeable. I don't think they can go direct, or I don't think they can play any other way than sort of trying to, press and play nice football. And I think that could maybe be their problem. I think when you sell a player like Glenn Murray, look, I know his contract was running out. He wanted to leave, but when you don't really replace that bit of experience in that Premier League now and a different way of playing, and someone that's a goal scorer, I think it's always going to be hard. And look, you still fancy Tottenham to win, but if Brighton can keep themselves in the game for as long as possible, we know what's happened in the last couple of home games.
So we're going to move on to the game of the weekend. 5:30. Doug, is Fulham versus West Brom. How do you see this game going?
1-1. 2-0 teams. They'll probably both get relegated. So
that's four teams relegated now, Doug.
4, yeah. They should probably relegate them all, to be honest.
Only 3.
Yeah, you haven't even got the last game yet. Don't even start. Start on Leeds. To be honest, I think the odd time I haven't watched much of Fulham or West Brom, to be honest, but the few games I've watched, they've looked to be kind of definitely lacking a lot up front. I think Fulham are looking very bad. I think Scott Barkley needs to make a lot of changes, just to kind of the style of play. I don't even know if he can, because they just don't have the players available. I think the two of them will probably struggle a lot this season, and I go for a 1-1, to be honest.
Sean?
Yeah, very similar opinion. I think everyone has better things to be doing than watching this game at 5:30. That like both teams have really struggled to score goals this season, and even it says a lot about their strikers in our fantasy draft, lads. Both the West Brom striker, Callum Robinson, and the Fulham striker, they're both like up for transfer.
It's true. It's very true. That's so true.
It says it all.
I look at them every week as well, and then I decide, they're there for a reason.
Yeah, you have a look. I had a look at Callum Robinson this week, and I was like, when's that lad going to score another goal? He's up there in terms of the most points, in terms of someone he can sign, but I'd rather keep my injured strikers on the bench for the moment. So yeah, I think that I agree with Doug. Both these teams will get relegated without a doubt. It's going to be 1-1.
I'd actually just disagree with Sean there, though. I think Callum Robinson's a very good player. I think maybe he doesn't get the goals necessarily, but you saw last season, he's a quality all-round player for a striker, and probably one of the first names in the team sheet for a lot of managers because of the work that he puts in. But yeah, no, you're right. He doesn't get the goals that he should be getting, but I think he's still a quality Premier League player, and I'd like to see him stay in the Premier League, whether West Brom get relegated or not.
Yeah, and just to back up your point, I actually had him in draft, Callum Robinson, the first 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks, and got rid of him before his Chelsea exploits. So I've kind of just refused to get him back in. That's why I'm actually bottom of the league. But early days, first pick. We're not going to talk about draft all day, lads, please. Seán, quick one on Fulham West Brom.
I think West Brom have been pretty good the last few weeks. Ivanovic has come in, that little bit more experience and grit. They've gone with a back four now, with two sort of offensive fullbacks, if you like. Carlum Grant scored last night. He's a good young player, and I think he was at Huddersfield before. So Fulham have shored up a bit with the goalkeeper coming in, Areola, and the defence just looks a little bit more solid. Two teams that, they probably will thereabouts a relegation. I wouldn't write both of them off just yet, because of the nature of the season. It's football is a bit mad now. No fans, so I wouldn't be too harsh on both sides at the moment. But I think West Brom, because of the little bit of turn of form they've had, that they might just nick a win, and a win for West Brom, and all of a sudden they're out of relegation zone and the pressure's on. As Doug said, Sheffield United and Burnley.
Yeah, and so Doug's got like half the league relegated. Sean's got nobody relegated. Gib, you Fulham, West Brom, and you've a few teams relegated. Who's the third?
Fulham, West Brom, and maybe Arsenal. I don't know.
Okay, right. We'll move on. I might mute you here as I move on to the next game. This could actually genuinely be the game of the week. Is Leeds Leicester? Doug, 8:00. We'll go to you. How do you see this game going? Outside United Arsenal, but I mean in terms of an entertaining game, because Leeds have been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this game. I think Leeds have been quality this season. They've added a real nice kind of new dimension to the Premier League. They play really interesting style football. I think they are set up well to kind of stay in the Premier League for a few years at least. I can see them definitely getting top 10 this season. I think they should win this weekend against Leicester. I think Leicester they've done well against the big teams. They beat City and they beat Arsenal in pretty good wins. But I think against the likes of Leeds, I think Leeds could win this. They're pretty solid defensively. They were last season at least, and they're kind of getting into that this season now after the first couple of games. And I think Bamford's looking sharp. He scored a quality hat-trick last weekend. Leicester are kind of not fantastic defensively this season, so I think this could be 2-0 Leeds.
Given to you, just quick with Leicester or AEK Athens tonight. We're recording this on Thursday, so that's coming back from Greece. I know it's a Monday kickoff, but they've got the Europa League to balance. How do you see this one going?
To be honest, I think Leeds are going to win this game. Lloyd Leeds. I think like Leicester have scored to score goals. I think they have only one goal in the last 3 games in the Premier League. So against Leeds, that's probably not going to be good enough. Leeds just love scoring goals. With the Bielsa triangles, they're probably unstoppable. With Klitsch and Bamford, I think that they're going to get a good few goals and Costa as well on the right. He's been class this season so far. So I feel like it's going to be probably 3-0 to Leeds. I don't see Leicester going to score a goal.
Seán, your thoughts on this?
I suppose that the game in Greece is going to hurt Leicester and playing Arsenal. It could be a little bit leggy. And Leeds, like I said, they've been unbelievable. And I wasn't too sure how they react to the Premier League. I thought it was those kind of games against Villa away from home where they might struggle. But, Bamford has been probably the surprise package in the Premier League. I don't think in anyone's wildest dreams they expected him to be, up there in the top scoring charts. And with just the way the goals have come as well, they've been really, really good finishes. And look, I kind of fancy Leicester here. Really good away from home, like we said, beat Man City, beating Arsenal, and I think they could just sucker Leeds in. And I think once you've Jamie Vardy on the pitch away from home in a Premier League game, you got to fancy your chances. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is or who you're playing, as long as Vardy's on the pitch with Barnes, Maddison, and all of a sudden there's goals there. And I think a similar result to the Arsenal game where Vardy whether he starts now, I think he's going to start on Thursday against Athens, and whether he could, play Thursday and Monday, we might have to wait and see. But I think Vardy could cause Leeds damage.
Yeah, a couple of things there. What's the first story first with Vardy? So they're targeting the Europa League and then bring him off the bench in the Premier League, Sean, do you reckon? Or what's the crack?
Well, he's had a bit of an
Mm.
injury. So he missed the Villa game and they lost, and he's a huge part of what they do. Now I know Rodgers wants a European run because with the nature of the competitiveness of the Premier League, there's no guarantee they'll be in Europe next year. So I'm sure he wants a good crack at it. It's a great way of attracting players, and I won't be surprised to see Leicester win this one.
And then why do you hate Leeds is my second question.
I like Leeds. I think people get me
Just
wrong.
in
I like
context, I
Leeds.
know you said that they'd stay up, but you got a lot of hate just because you seem to kind of, everyone was saying they might go top 10. You said they'd probably finish 15th, 16th. And I've had Leeds fans on to me, you know the ones I'm talking about as well.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit skeptical on them. I like them, but I think the majority of what they do is because of the unbelievable skill and nous of Marco Bielsa. And I just don't know if the players are that good enough to be consistent the whole time. Look, I know everyone knows how fit they are, the training methods. Like he's an unbelievable coach, and what he's done to Leeds to sort of rejuvenate that club. But I just think at times his players could let him down. And if Leeds have a really good season, they get more income, maybe they can buy more players and really progress. But at the moment, I think their players just have a tendency at times to let them down. We saw it at the end of last season at times. But no, I am a Leeds fan. I was delighted when they won 3-0 against Aston Villa.
Yeah, it seems like it. Our dad's a Leeds fan for full context, so we are genuinely supporting them. Doug, final word on Leeds there. You've heard Sean's kind of strong-ish opinions, I guess, but I know he has been impressed with Leeds overall this season.
I'd be kind of worried as well over the next couple of months to see how they cope without your man Calvin Phillips. I think he's a quality player. He's pretty unique in his style of play, and he's out until I think mid-December. So that could put a bit of a bump in the road for them if they can't get a like-for-like replacement. But I think defensively they're pretty good. I think the two fullbacks are very good at attacking as well, and they've got another two to come on. So I think they've kind of adopted that same method as Guardiola, as to having a solid four fullbacks that can kind of contribute to the attack as well. And then obviously really interesting midfield with just 4 or 5 attackers that are kind of floating around. And I think that they'll do well. Yeah.
But at the moment, everything seems to be going Leeds' way. And my thing is, if it stops going their way and they pick up more and more injuries and all of a sudden Bamford's injured and look, they have been short at the back, don't get me wrong, but I think if they start losing, things start going against Leeds and Leeds are falling apart and all this sort of stuff, how are they going to react and the unknown of the Premier League? But look, I think everyone in England and everyone watching hopes Leeds stay up and thrive and become the big club they are again.
I think just one point on that though. I think if you look at when Bielsa came in, he pretty much had the same squad after about a year from when he started off, and within about 6 or 8 weeks, he managed to turn that squad into the team that they are now. So I think that he probably has the ability to turn a lot of the kind of the backup players into quality first team players because of his tactical abilities and the way he sets up his team. So I think he isn't as reliant on quality players as, say, other teams might be, like Leicester would be so reliant on Vardy. I think he has the ability to bring in the kind of lesser players and turn them into quality players. Like what you said with Bamford, like he wasn't necessarily a quality player before at Chelsea. He definitely wasn't up to much, but he seems like a popular Premier League striker now.
Yeah, and you can see Bielsa's tactical nous in the game against Villa when he subbed off Skriniar, I think it was, and brought on Shackleton, and it changed the whole game. And that's the sort of managerial man you're dealing with, and that's Leeds' trump card, and that's why they've been so impressive at times this season. That little change, I mean, I don't know many other managers in the league who do something like that, but it came good and they won 3 points.
Yeah, and I think just finishing up on this, I think Patrick Bamford's been the key really, because we're looking at them start the season, where are the goals going to come from, and Leeds fans were the ones putting the pressure on Patrick Bamford, no one else, and they were frustrated with him. And I'd say if it was up to a lot of Leeds fans, they'd have got rid of him, but he's done phenomenally, and it's all down to Bielsa. So just to recap on the predictions, lads. So Wolves, Palace, you both gone 1-0. Sheffield United, City 3-0 for Doug, 4-0 for Gibb for City. Burnley, Chelsea 3-0 Doug on Chelsea, and 1-0 to Chelsea for Gibb. Liverpool, West Ham is 3-2. Doug's gone for West Ham. That's right, isn't it? 3-2 West Ham. And
Yeah.
then Gibbs gone 2-1 West Ham, which is, I just wasn't expecting it. Villa Southampton, Villa 4-2 to win for Doug and 2-2 for Gibb. Newcastle Everton 3-0 for Everton for Doug and 1-1 for Gibb. United Arsenal, Doug 3-1 for United. Gibbs gone 5-0 somehow here for United. Spurs Brighton 2-1 Doug for Spurs, and then Gibbs gone 3-0 Spurs. And then the final two is 1-1 across the board for Fulham West Brom. Looking forward to that game. And then Leeds to win 2-0 for Doug and Leeds to win 3-0 for Gibbs. Similar enough. So the big games are probably going to be the likes of the Villa Southampton game, Newcastle Everton game, and the rest is just hanging on for those correct scores, lads. We're due a correct score, so we're looking for one this week, lads. So listen, the best of luck. Any final words from medias, or the best of luck to each other?
Yeah, best luck, Sean.
May the best one win. I'm getting double figures this week, so I just hope you get slightly more. You know?
Yeah, it's hard to believe there's actually 30 points up for grabs, and it was 3-2 last week, Doug. So you should win.
3-2.
Yeah, it's bad. It's harder than you think, though. I had a crack at it myself. There's a reason I'm presenting and not predicting. So yeah, listen, lads, pleasure coming out. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Sorry. If for those listening, get us on social media at Tackling Sport. If you like or would like to be on the show, do get in contact with us on the Premier League fan predictions. It's winner stays on, lads. So the best of luck. And please, anywhere you listen, please follow or subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button there. It's in the bottom right, and just follow us on all other platforms. And all that's left to say is it's goodbye from Sean, Gib, and Doug.
Bye, lads.
And it's goodbye from myself. We'll chat to you next weekend. Have a great weekend.